To get to where we're at today, it's because we went through the failures in life.
Yes.
So why don't we just start off with, everyone wants to know where we failed first.
What topics do we have for today?
A little bit about ourselves, what got us started, why are we even here, how we met.
Yeah, let's start with how we met, basically.
Yeah.
I think it was the kids.
What was the kids? I think it was at Pete's Coffee here in Dubai Hills.
Yeah.
And my little one just jumps up on this bench and I'm like, fuck. It's like this guy's just working right now. She's yelling, what do I do? It's like she's actually sitting down, she's eating. I won't touch her, let her eat. A couple minutes later I was like, shit, I hope I'm not bothering you. The 1-year-old's just like bickering away. And it's like, no, I have my headphones on, so.
Got the AirPods in, don't worry about it. It's like, this is kids proof, basically.
Yeah.
This is exactly why I invited. It's not for like the noise cancelling, it's for the kids cancelling, basically. That's
the ambient noises.
Yeah, ambient noises indeed. It helps, it helps.
Yeah.
But I think that's the first thing I bought when I went working remote. Mm-hmm. So I have this tool called Crisp AI.
No.
And it's basically what it helps you to do is just cancel the whole background noise.
Do you download this on your iPhone?
It's on your Mac. I think it's also on your, I'm not sure if it's on your iPhone as well, but you download it on your Mac and it's like a Chrome extension. And what it allows you to do is basically whenever you jump on a call, you switch it on and it just cancels the whole background noise.
Really?
Because I remember it was like, I had this one experience where I was giving a presentation for the client and then suddenly the guy is like middle of the presentation, he's like, look, love what you guys are doing, love what is on the slides, but dude, the background noise. Because I was presenting from a coffee bar, I didn't have enough time to go to the office, so we just landed with 2 people in a coffee bar. It's like, we're gonna present here.
Yes.
In the middle of it's like, nah, it's not gonna work out. Like, there's too much background noise going on. That's the moment I realized, shit, I need to do something. And Crystal AI has been a lifesaver.
And so not only does it cancel it out, but like when you're presenting, the other person can't hear it either.
Exactly. It's just amazing. And I was this little test with clients. There's this, I'm like, okay, you know what? Do you hear some background? I was like, yeah, a little bit. And they're never like honest, they're never gonna say it's complete shit. So like, yeah, there is some background noise going on. And then suddenly I'm like, I switch on the button. And they're like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
What happens is like, I just switch on my tool, I work remote, so I understand that you need to have the benefits, but I also need to make sure from my side, everything is arranged as well.
Well, that's the thing, like when you're working remote, it's like, there's only so many co-working places or WeWorks you can go to. And then even when you're down here, like in our lobby right now, you have someone playing pool maybe. And you hear the
which reminds me,
we'll get the balls.
We forgot to take away the balls, basically.
Let's just pray no one comes in.
That's true. We forgot the plan A. Just get away the balls so that we don't hear them. For the next podcast, we had too much hassle already, like putting this thing together.
Yes.
Hopefully they won't see it, but that's fine. Scrambling.
And plus, I emailed all the security members, so hopefully fingers crossed.
Oh, you really emailed the security guards?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
To what? To get the permit?
To get the permit, yeah. This guy was fairly nice. He said that we'll have to contact Dubai Media. It's actually a whole strategic process just to film.
Yeah.
It's not like any other country. There's a lot of rules and regulations you have to follow here. It's a good and bad thing, really. It's a good thing that they have these rules in place, but it's just another step you have to take in order to do everything.
Getting permits. Yeah. It's one thing. I guess it's everywhere in life. Like getting permits has been like half of my life, basically.
Yeah.
Trying to get permits for Y, Z, everywhere. It's like, okay, what's the rules? What's the rules and how can I bend around it a little bit?
Find the loopholes. Like what we're doing now.
So in this case, we're filming through a phone, which is allowed.
Yep.
But a camera is not allowed. So that was a weird encounter we had this morning.
Yep.
We have 2 phones now strapped up to this.
We have phones running side to side. We have professional lighting.
We have professional lighting.
But lighting is okay.
Lighting is okay. The whole setup is okay. We can use the space.
Yeah.
But
the professional camera in the back there.
Which is not filming.
Not filming.
Not filming at all.
No.
So yeah, that's I think how we met. It was the kids basically.
Yeah, it was the kids.
And then from there we were like, okay, you do something with podcasting, same thing with me. We're trying the hustle basically.
Exactly. I feel like when you're in Dubai, everyone here is a tourist, and everyone comes here for really 3 reasons. One, is either they're a tourist, 2, they come here to make money, 3, it's a combination of the first 2.
I see. Okay.
So technically everyone's a tourist.
So what do you consider yourself? Are you like the latter?
I would probably say I'm the latter. Like, people come here for a reason. Obviously, if it's for a means of living, and it's a very transient market, I'd say. No one really stays here for more than 5, 6+ years, unless if they have really strong ties. That may change with the new benefits and like the things that the Dubai government's offering now. And it's really focusing on like harnessing, building communities here.
Yeah, true.
Even if I don't reside here full time, I'll have a permanent place here to come to.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same. I'm doing 6 months right now, so 6 months during the winter, and 6 months during the summer I'm away. Try to either go back to Belgium, try another country basically. I wouldn't live here in the summer if it's possible, I would say. But I still consider myself a tourist, even though I'm like a resident for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like you did the whole paperwork, the permits again.
Yes.
I'm not sure, I think it was like around 90% are in Dubai are touristic. Not tourists, but like people that are not from this country.
Yep.
So technically everybody is a tourist in this country.
They really are.
And I think that's the beauty out of it, because like even how we met, yes, you can have the same encounter in Belgium, but you would have your friends group there. Exactly. I would have my friends group as well. And so mingling, like getting started straight away was like, nah. But then we just met and like, hey, you know what? Let's just do a podcast. Like,
why not?
Okay, you know, why not? You know, why not?
The biggest icebreaker here. Like when you meet new people. And I completely agree with you. Like when I was living back in the States, like you said, everyone has their own clique. And to welcome a new person into your clique, you have to be constantly seeing this person in like coffee shops or somewhere outside for like months before that's like they accept you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I'm sure maybe it's the same in Belgium or anywhere else in the world, but here, because everyone's a tourist, you let your guard down.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why not? Let's just go do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think for me, I always realize that you become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself the most with. And I feel this is also one of the reasons why I came to Dubai, and also what I felt in Dubai is that you meet such a smart people, but not just smart people that are open for a chat. I think that's the difference. Like in Belgium, it would be so hard to like, you have to get an introduction to whoever it is to meet somebody. Here, you would just walk up to somebody in a coffee bar and just have a chat. You would have a chat with a random person, suddenly you realize this guy has X, Y, Z. It's like, oh, this is super nice.
Yeah.
Like, I like that feeling, basically.
Yeah.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
I think that's the word.
You know how when you go through school, there's like a filtering process. You have your standardized tests, your exams, your GPA when you apply for a college or university, for example, right? And then so when you get to university, you have a certain smart group of people, like they're very much like you, they have similar goals and mindsets. That's what I feel like Dubai is. Dubai has a filtering process in order for someone to get here.
Yes.
There's a certain group of people or people that are like-minded, high aptitude, that come here for a reason, whatever that may be, whether that hustle culture or environment that they want for themselves, whatever the case may be. That filtering process, you have that group of smart people here.
True. I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's also why people go to schools like Harvard and all, or whatever school, Stanford, or the big schools, is because you have a natural selection of, not always, because some people just pay for it, but smart people that you surround yourself with. And you increase the chances of you getting somewhere because you're surrounding yourself with smart people.
Exactly.
And it's just the story is like, that's the beauty. Like every time I meet somebody in Dubai, they always have this beautiful story on how they ended up here. It's never like a normal story. It's never like, oh yeah, I don't know, I just graduated and decided to move to Dubai. That's never the case. And most of the time it's some inspiring story. It's like, yeah, middle of COVID, I went here. I mean, for me as well, I just came here in the middle of COVID because everything was closed in Belgium. Brother calls me up, is like, you know what? Everything is closed, man. Why don't you come to Dubai? Everything is open. Like, okay. 1 week later, jump on the plane, 5 weeks in. Wow. And I'm like, this is actually a cool country. Like I had so much weird things in my mind about Dubai, the whole bling bling story, and then Dubai bling comes out, that's another topic. That just screws up whole Dubai, I would say. But then you come here, it's like, oh, actually this is not how it was in my mind. This is actually a really cool country.
I came here with my family. Right? I've been coming and going out of Dubai for the past like 10, 15 years now. Every year that I come here, it always seems so different from the previous time. Like so much has changed here. Like if you look at other cities of the world, like let's say I'm originally from New York,
Yeah.
Obviously, New York has its own history, but if you look at it, it's at least 200 to 300 years of history behind that city. Dubai is barely 3 decades. In this metropolitan, you have a population that just boomed up to nearly 4 million people.
That's crazy if you think about it. That's what, 52 years now?
Yeah.
I think it's 52, 51 years, 4 million people. It's
just mind-boggling. Like a decade ago, it was barely even a million, a few 100,000 actually. And 2015 is like 1.5 or so, almost tripled since then.
That's crazy. I mean, it's 4 million people. It's like 1/3 of my country, Belgium. And we've been existing for more than 50 years here, so just wanted to nuance that. But I think, like, apart from the positive sides, there's also some, for me, what I've noticed when people come here, negative sides as well. I feel the first one I always get is the authenticity. You don't have these buildings with huge amount of history. Like you go in New York, you go in Paris, you have these buildings that, I don't know, went through the Stone Age almost. Yes. And you have this beautiful, story behind it. That's what I feel when I bring people in. They're like, yeah, but where's the culture?
Yeah.
Where is this, storytelling?
The Dubai bling.
To Dubai bling, which I understand to a certain point, but then I realize that when people speak about Dubai, they think about Dubai as a country, not as a city.
Exactly.
And so that's the big nuance for me. I always say, look, think about like if you have your home country, whatever, New York, and New York decides to build like this futuristic city just next to New York, like an hour away. That's Dubai. You still have Abu Dhabi, which is the capital, which you can drive away. In 1 hour, you're there, Korfakan or whatever. You still have these cities with a huge amount of culture. You just have a futuristic city in the middle. Yeah. But you don't have to, you can just go 1 hour and you have that culture. Maybe not here because it exists 52 years.
Like you said, it's 90% tourists, people from other destinations. So the culture is being defined as we speak now. So it's maybe you have this pretentious type of behavior or culture, people revolve themselves around materialistic things because there's nothing to back it up against. No. And I think the people that are coming in now are establishing, it's essentially a melting pot. You look at the bigger cities like London, Paris, New York, it is a melting pot, but that took time for it to get there.
Yeah, true.
But if you look at Dubai and the path that it's on, it's almost like exponential growth. That culture is getting molded as we speak.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's the beauty of it because everybody's still available to mingle in that sense, I would say. Not in a sexual sense, but more I'm open to get to know people.
Exactly.
And also one of the reasons I feel is because people go, leave and come back basically. I think that's a negative and the positive side at the same time. Negative side, it's quite hard to keep long-term friends here. Sure. So if you're staying here for a long time, you're staying for 6, you could have different friends group every single year because people are leaving and coming in. Yeah. But that's also the advantage because that means that as a new person, you can just walk in and make big group of friends just straight out the gate basically, if you're open to it, of course. Exactly. So I think that's a positive and a negative side at the same time.
If anything, for personal growth, I think it's actually beneficial for people to come here just because then when you interact with new people, you get new insight to different topics because you get people coming from whether it's America or from Australia or from Cambodia.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll get different perspectives on life and that culture. I have little kids and for the past year, we've actually been basically traveling the world. We hit 12 countries in 12 months.
But 12 each month you travel away.
Ipso facto. But then we just want to give them maximum exposure to different cultures, different nuances that you don't really get to experience. Even though, like I said, New York or in some of the bigger metropolitan cities in America, you have that, but to smaller degrees. It's very isolated. You'll have a Chinatown or Little Italy.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
No, but I like that. I think we spoke about that in the first meeting we had, the first chat we had, is about when you're raising your children to expose them at as many languages as possible so that they can pick it up very quickly when they grow up. Same thing with my Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish until I was 18 because I was, people in my home were speaking Spanish because of my Mexican mom. Suddenly at 18 in 3 months' time, I'm speaking fluent Spanish. I mean, not all the words, impossible.
Right. But at least enough to understand and communicate.
Enough to understand and also speak it in a way that it's natural. You have these languages where you're okay, I'm struggling to find my words written. I don't have that in Spanish at all. Even though I don't know all the words, I'll still find a way to work it out.
But an interesting topic is that if you're bilingual, trilingual, it's easier to pick up another language because your mind's already shifted into like adapt different languages, right? Especially the Latin-based languages, right? Because there's very similarities. But if you only know how to speak, let's say English, it's very difficult for that person to learn anything else, or it'll take a much, I wouldn't say difficult, you put in the effort, and obviously it depends on the person, but it'll take time.
No, true, I would say. But then the negative side on that side is that most of the time you don't speak one language perfectly.
Yeah.
I've had that now with Dutch, for example, or English. Like, I won't speak it perfectly, 90%, but like not perfectly.
Sure.
Because of all the other languages, basically. You have like French and Spanish coming in, it's like, okay. Then I realize it's fine, you know. You don't need to speak 100%. You know, if we can just have a conversation like this.
Sure. Basically 90% of 100%. You're 100% there.
Let's take that. But talking about starting languages, I also want to talk about starting businesses.
Yeah.
There was 3 topics that I really wanted to discuss. I think the first one was really about anything about starting a business. So something that failed.
Yep.
Something that went okay, I feel, and then something that really boomed or something that we were quite proud of, I would say.
Both of us come from a varied background. We both have very interesting beginnings, and I think to get to where we're at today, it's because we went through the failures in life.
Yes.
We had small successes, and then we had certain big wins. Yeah. So why don't we just start off with, everyone wants to know where we failed first.
I feel like everybody cares about the failings, I would say. I feel that's the story, because then when you hear these stories of like overnight successes almost, like, oh, they just sold a company for X or Y.
Yeah.
And the first question I always ask myself, okay, but what happened like the months or the years before that?
Yeah.
Because mostly there's a story. There's a very limited people that just wake up and build an idea and they become successful right away. There's a very limited amount of people. And I always think about people like Mr. Beast or the YouTuber or like all the other countries. Like when you look at the first videos they produced, they were complete shit.
Yeah.
Complete shit. Now everybody knows Mr. Beast because of this huge celebrity.
Sure.
And actually, if you just backtrack how he started and how everything went, it's like, that's what you have to learn from.
Very humble beginnings. Like any successful, let's say, YouTuber.
Yeah.
You have Mr. Beast, MKBHD, a lot of people in the tech space or financial space, like even like Graham Steffens.
Yeah.
They all started out with an idea and they really pushed hard. They were adamant and perseverant.
Yeah.
To ensure success, you have to be perseverant. There's I'd say 1 in a million that it's instant success overnight.
Yeah.
But that's like similar to like winning the lottery, right?
Yes.
Almost over 90% of the people that have been perseverant and adamant about their goal and put in the time and effort and energy and just kept going, they found success.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's what we talked about yesterday as well, is that your initial idea that you're going to launch is mostly not the idea that is actually going to hit the market, or at least to be successful in the market.
Exactly.
At least that's what I learned when I was launching a few stuff, and I always think back about a thing called the Stew Dream.
Sure.
The Student Dream, you know, it's a horrible name, but still, like I remember when I was, I think it was 19 or 20 or something like that, and in my mind I had this beautiful idea. It was an amazing idea. So the idea is very simple. You go to students that came to your country to study who bought furniture, and they had to leave within the first week or second week because they just graduated, they moved out of the country. So you have this 2 weeks of space where they need to sell very urgently so you can buy furniture very quickly and at a very cheap price. So I actually bought a bunch of furniture. I had $500 back in the day, so I bought for $500. I bought these furnitures. Yeah. But I forgot something back then because I just moved back from China and India, and I never had a driver license. Like absolutely no driver license. So I bought this furniture, and then the moment I bought this furniture, I realized, man, I need to like get this truck, but I don't have a driver license. So I called up my mom. I'm like, Mom, I would need your, driving skills because I can't drive. I felt like a 16-year-old or like a 14-year-old that doesn't have a driver's license that needs to go to a party or something like that. And I called my mom. She's like, okay, you know what? Let's get the furniture. So we do the whole tour of Belgium. I still have some pictures of that. And it's like just driving around and I buy all this furniture and I have this 500 euro worth of furniture. So I have like benches, I have chairs, I have everything. I'm like, okay, now the idea is I'm gonna rent this out.
Sure.
So I'm not gonna sell it. I'm gonna rent
amazing
it out.
idea.
I'm gonna rent
Yeah.
out secondhand furniture. Actually, what I'm doing now in Dubai,
Yeah.
I'm renting my furniture. They just come in 2 days later, I have full stack. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
The idea I thought was genius. That genius that I realized that I didn't want to tell anybody. Like none of my friends knew. Even my mother knew a little bit, but not fully, because I thought IKEA was gonna steal my idea. It was such a genius idea that I thought IKEA was gonna steal this freaking idea. And what happened is that I never spoke to even my customers. I never spoke to anybody of my suppliers, people where I was buying from. I wasn't speaking to them. And the only thing I did, or I tried to do, is build a Shopify website. Now we're talking 10 years ago. So Shopify websites and me studying economics, not a good blend. So I ended up having a Shopify website with like a picture of a chair, which was tilted on the left side. I didn't know how to tilt it to the right. So that was just a horrible experience. And I was just left with a shitty Shopify website and 500 euros worth of basement furniture. Which the furniture is still there. Like it was still there for like 2-3 years. I think I still have a few of these things. I think like a chair or something like that. But like I was stuck with the furniture because I never spoke to anybody. Like I thought my idea was such a genius thing. So it's like the number one thing, the next time I'm doing a new business, I'm going to be speaking to as many people as possible. And worst case, if it's such a brilliant idea, like you said yesterday, let them sign an NDA or whatever it is, but talk. Like talk it out. Don't keep it in yourself, because I told you the story as well, as where this woman would text me, like, oh Ricardo, you've done this really cool stuff. I need your advice. I'm like, okay, so what's the idea? Yeah, I can't tell you the idea because I only speak to my lawyers about it or about to my banker. I'm like, so how can I help you? Yeah, that's indeed difficult. So first thing I would do, launching a business again, speak to as many people, build a prototype, and just get it out as quickly as possible.
You know, I mean, like, it's a very interesting topic because, like, if you look at any successful business, the way to market it is by telling people. Otherwise, who's going to know what to buy? We kind of briefly touched on this. It's somewhat relevant here, is that any successful business that you see, or anyone that's offering something of value, whether it's on YouTube, they're giving you all this excellent, amazing content, and everyone's there to absorb it. But who takes advantage of it? And that's the caveat that I see. It's like you have amazing knowledge. That's accessibility to knowledge now is in the palm of your hands.
True.
You don't need like a degree or anything of that sort to show that you have an idea that you want to implement.
For an idea, no, but I do argue that sometimes the degree comes in handy.
The degree is only coming in handy if you're going to pursue something professional, like like a doctor, a lawyer, or something, a healthcare professional, like that.
Yes.
But
if you're going to entrepreneurship, it doesn't really matter. Unless
if it's something relating to that field.
Unless it's your first business and you're looking for VC funding and you really need funding and you need something to back up track record which you don't have. I think that could be handy, but for the rest, just sales is going to prove anything else. So.
Not really. Because I mean, I'm a perfect example. I went through a hell of a lot of schooling.
Too much.
Too much. But what I'm doing now, technically, I probably could have done straight out of high school. Yes, there's that credibility and integrity, that wisdom that you acquire over the years. I don't regret anything, but at the same time, if I was persistent and persevering in the path that I'm on now, I could have started from right out of high school.
True, but you know, I hate quoting Steve Jobs because everybody quotes Steve Jobs, but I do like one fact always, is like, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Now you're connecting the dots saying, okay, could have started that, but sometimes you just have to go through shit to realize it later on.
Like I said, I don't regret anything because the person who I am today is because it's a summation of my experiences.
Yes. What about your failures? Where is
that
coming in? I want to know, because I cannot be the only one failing here.
I'll give you one quick example because I want to trump your story here. It's epic. Similarly to what you said, like you started a Shopify store, you didn't really know what you were doing. I did something similar. Like I was already going towards that marketing line of work. And I ended up starting my first Shopify store back in 2016, 2017. Yes, it became immensely successful very quickly. I would say it was probably in the top 1% of Shopify stores in the world in less than, I think, 3 months.
That's pretty cool.
We were doing 7 figures of revenue in about, I want to say, 90 days.
All right, I have a bunch of questions around that, but I'll leave you to finish that one.
But the thing is that I think the caveat with getting successful too quickly is also a bad thing. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I was like, this is amazing. I'm charging everything on my Amex. I'm getting these points, playing the point game. I'm fulfilling orders left and right. I just learned on acquiring all these different programs and softwares to like automate everything. I was literally, my fingers were getting tired to like click fulfill. And my phone would just stop. Like I remember this was right around like Christmas time. It was running ads for about like maybe spending a few $1,000s every day just on like Facebook and Instagram ads, right? My phone was just like buzzing off, would like freeze up because it was like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Every time the Shopify order would come in, it would cha-ching. It was getting really annoying.
That's a nice feeling.
it's a really good feeling, but also annoying to other people. It's like, what's going on? It's like, phone's out of whack. Amazing revenue, amazing margins. At that time, Facebook ads, the cost per click was very low.
What were you selling, by the way?
We were selling leather shoes. Boots.
Leather boots.
Leather boots.
Leather boots.
Yeah.
Okay. Like sourced, like created yourself,
so
or like just
technically it was sourced through a supplier. I ordered a sample. I was like, this is amazing. Like it was similar to, I don't know if you've heard of the brand Magnani or To Boot New York.
Is that an American brand?
No, Magnani is a Spanish brand. To Boot, obviously, I wouldn't say it's American because they're made in Italy. It's a really nice looking boot. Yeah. So it had nice ads. We were pushing it. It was just literally just a few pictures of like someone just sitting on top of a cliff wearing the happy socks with these amazing leather looking boots, of which if you were to go to like To Boot or anything of the higher end brands, this is like a $400 or $500 shoe, but I was selling it for maybe, I think I was selling it for like $80 at the time.
Okay.
My sourcing, because it was out of China, with shipping costs, was barely somewhere between $15 and $20, inclusive of shipping, depending on which country I was shipping to.
Some nice margins.
Amazing margins. I mean, obviously there's the cost for the marketing fees and all that, but still amazing margins, especially with the surplus of orders. Now get this. This is the turnaround. First few orders, amazing feedback. People were loving it. I was like, wow, this is an amazing product. I have a winning product. I can build an entire store around this, not just sell shoes, but go into other leather goods and things like that. Problem with growing too quickly is that the supplier knew he had me by the balls. Like he had me, like I was throwing all this money at him, even though it was, he knows the margins I'm making. Easily sees where the orders are coming from, where they're getting fulfilled.
He was fulfilling the orders, so it was not a bulk shipment to you.
No. So the only control I had was that first one where I shipped myself, and after that it was essentially just drop shipping.
So technically, customer data was also back with him.
Customer data was with me. The only customer data he had was their physical address, nothing else.
Okay, so not their
emails or names or anything. Okay, so he's fulfilling the orders. Somewhere right 2 weeks before Christmas, the supplier that I was using switches up the material from leather to like this plastic material.
What?
And that just got me fucked. I was fulfilling, I want to say, somewhere between 500 to 1,000 orders per day. You can only imagine, in that, especially those weeks prior to Christmas, how many orders there were and how many people were upset when they received the product. They see one picture, they see the feedback, they see what people are receiving, and then what they receive is not that ideal.
Was it really that far off?
Let's just say if you have this leather shoe, this is what I'm wearing, it's, what is it, Saffiano leather, right? This relatively high-end looking leather shoe. You have something that looks like this.
I see. Yeah, that's a big change up there.
The feedback that I got from the people, the chargebacks, the cancellations, the returns, and then the reporting back to Facebook. Not only did it ban my store, it banned that ad account from Facebook. I was totally effed. Like I ended up, whatever revenue I had, I mean I still probably made a little bit, but not nearly those margins. And that store had to get shut down.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah. From this and then same. Yeah, crashed and burned.
So what did you learn? What's the learnings here?
So essentially, whenever you start a business, especially when it's relating to a product, you want to control everything, like completely vertically integrated.
Yeah.
If you're sourcing the parts from somewhere else, that's fine. If you even look at Tesla, they're sourcing a lot of their parts from different suppliers,
Yeah.
whether it's like for the battery, LG, Panasonic, what have you. But they take those items and they have their own QA and quality assurance team and the testing on within their own realm before it gets shipped out to the customer.
Yeah.
Like you want to vertically integrate, whether it's from like the ads and like the marketing part, but when it comes to the product, develop your own product, make it completely unique to you, so it really gives you that competitive advantage, and then at the same time control the entire supply chain, and then direct to consumer. You want to take out all the middlemen, and that's where you find success. And it's much better to grow slowly than to grow too quickly. You can pivot where needed very quickly, and then expand that way organically.
I think that also goes in hand with being able, because you control the full cycle, you're able to pivot a lot faster than when you are working with 3 middlemen that before it hits you, you're already 3-4 cycles away.
Correct.
Especially in the beginning, I feel like customer feedback is something you have to be able to respond to in a very quick manner.
Yep.
So in order to do that, you need to set up the systems in place that if something hits, that you can adapt super quickly, I would say. And I think for you, when it got shipped, like it was too late already.
Yeah.
If you were effed already.
Yeah.
So I guess next time, what would you do? Would you say, I'm gonna bulk ship it to me? Because that's what we're doing here as well with another e-commerce store. We just ship it to America. There's a supplier there, checks everything, and it goes from there.
Yes and no. The thing is that personally, I've started multiple businesses besides this, and I would say right now, I'd rather invest in existing businesses if it's product related, because they have a track record that's already set, rather than me starting completely brand new and then putting those efficiencies in place. Because it takes time and energy. A really good team to do it. I'm trying to do one thing right now with the prefab I kind of alluded to before. I think I'm a person where I don't have the time and patience anymore.
You've got kids,
kids.
That helps.
Especially if it's product related, I would actually focus on higher ticket items with higher margins and fewer products, rather than going volume based, because you could always go volume based. You want to appeal to the luxury clientele first because they're an easy grab. If they like the product, they buy it, they don't care about the price. But then it also assists you in their feedback. It's like what they like and don't like. And then from there, you can scale the product up to appeal to the lower socioeconomic classes, because then they feel like they're getting a piece of luxury at a fraction of the cost.
It's a little bit the Tesla roadmap. You start with a big fancy car for the luxury people, get the feedback, sell a few cars for millions, and then scale that down.
Almost any electric vehicle now, like let's say whether it's Tesla, Rivian, Polestar, all start with a high-end product, and then with economies of scale, we'll slowly offer lower tier models.
Yeah, so you would start with a very high-end product, maybe just sell it to a few people, get the feedback, and then with that money, go back and invest it and see if you can get those economies of scale for the lower tiers.
Exactly.
It's a good life lesson, actually.
Yeah.
What about the okay-ish business, basically? Because we talked about the failures.
Yeah.
I think people are just going to say, okay, more failures.
Yeah.
I feel that's coming. We have a lot more on that one. So let's talk about the ones where we actually went through the learning curve. Like, okay, how do we do this in the right way? I would say. I'm going to let you go first, because I thought you had some cool ones. I remember a skateboard story.
Yes.
I remember something with skateboards, and it got me intrigued.
So, like with the okay businesses, especially when, like I said, with product related, there's always a fad. I remember meeting the owner of Pinkberry. It's a froyo place. Obviously, frozen yogurt was a fad. Lasted for a good 10 years, at least in the United States. But you saw the peak and then the trough. The decline. This guy was really smart. I think he opened, it was like 17, 18 locations in the city of Minneapolis. Made tons of money. And then right before, I think in the plateau phase, which is, I think, a good value point to learn from any business model, is when a business plateaus and you don't see any potential growth is the best time to sell, because that's when you know you're leaving a little bit of chicken on the bone for the next person. And if they want to pivot or know how to pivot to evolve into something else, great. If not, they'll earn something and then have at least the chance to sell it out or close it or what have you. I think this guy, he ended up selling at the right time. I think he sold it for like $30 or $40 million.
That's just the 17 locations, or
just 18 locations, yeah.
Nice.
They're doing fairly well at the time. I think each location was doing a few 100,000.
Because it was new, right?
It was a new thing.
But I always wonder how long does this new things really last? Like, okay, coffee, yes, it lasts, obviously, but like this, I don't know, I see these bubble waffles or like these...
The boba tea now.
Yes, like you see all these things that everybody wants to try one time to put on their Instagram.
Yeah.
But how many people really go back?
Not many, because like I said, with the skateboard, it's a higher ticket item. I was selling this for about $2,000. I was intrigued with, I think, the companies that were coming out, like Evolve or Monster or some of these other ones. I started as a reseller for some of these companies at first, and then it's like, you know what, it doesn't look that difficult. It's like, this is something I could take the parts, build my own thing, evolve it into my own brand, and then sell it at a slightly lower, reduced price.
This is where your engineering skills came in.
This is more of like a hobby, even though I'm not an engineer.
We saw that today.
We saw that.
We saw that, but yeah.
So I put this skateboard together and I started marketing it for slightly a little bit less on like across the e-commerce channels, but again, high ticket item. This is not something that a person will buy and constantly, like, it's like fast fashion, right? You don't like, you go to H&M every single month and potentially buy another t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to buy an electric skateboard every single month or 2 months.
No, it's just you one time sale.
One time for probably the next few years.
Yeah.
So again, I knew that going into a product that has a certain product life cycle, like, and it's also probably could be a fad right now. You go in, it's like you market it properly. You're the first one to market it, especially at the kind of features that you're offering, and you differentiate from the rest, so it really makes you stand out. And then that's it. You close up shop because you know when it's like, okay, I can sell this from this time to this time. Make your inventory, or whether you're making yourself or outsourcing it, what have you, but make sure the quality assurance is there.
That's alert.
And then that's it. You have a good distribution channel, and then you sell out.
Was it same setup? Shopify, ads? Or did you have like a physical store as well that you needed to?
You know, this was more recent. This was just a few years ago. In the US, there's an oversaturation of ads, especially in certain spaces. I'd say the best thing to do is know your target client. Basically get into hyper-focus in a niche or of a sub-niche. And so you really know your customer. To start with. And then that's when the ads can still do well. Otherwise, if you're going to be blasting ads here, you're just going to be wasting money. Another lesson learned.
Spending a lot of money.
Yes. The best way to grow any business, and this is true from even before we had the internet, word of mouth and organic marketing is one of the best ways, even today, to grow any business.
True. But very hard to control.
It is very hard to control, and it takes a while for it to
kick in.
But when it does, it's like wildfire. It just spreads.
True. I agree on that. I think it's one of the channels, I would say. Not the only channel you can do, but it's one of the channels that is always the most effective one. But you need to spend a little of time like tweaking it, I would say.
Yeah.
Is word of mouth the same thing as organic, or are we talking for you organic is like people going on SEO?
I'd say yes and no. Organic in the sense that yes, word of mouth comes in, you have people telling you don't even know the channels where they're getting reference from, right? SEO works to an extent where it's no different than ads. There's analytics and you can come into play and you can track where they're coming from and what kind of person that is, just like for any ad. But influence that person has on their own subgroup or community, you have no control over that.
Yeah.
So that would be organic.
Organic is anything that the person recommended you.
Correct. I'd say anything where you can't really analyze where it's coming from is more of an organic growth.
Yeah, that's true. And you want that to keep on growing, basically.
Exactly.
Because you can spend as much Facebook ads as you want, but if your organic is not growing even further, then there's something wrong.
Exactly.
It's the lessons learned we have at the end.
With these businesses, especially with product life cycles, this is more so an analysis of any business model. You have the growth phase. I guess reference you to our audience here. Usually businesses start off like this. They're very like slow to grow, especially if you're just organic marketing. You're not doing the ads or anything like that. You're learning, getting feedback, and then they have the propensity to exponentially grow like this.
True.
That's the exponential growth phase. Just like take the iPhone for example. There's right around the turn of this, or maybe a decade ago. I think it was 2007 when the first iPhone came out. People were just converting from flip phones and Blackberries, right?
Back in the good old days.
Back in the day. By 2012, 2013, you have more adaptability, you have more mobile networks that are adapting the iPhone and they're marketing it. And then so there's that growth phase, adaptation of it, right?
Yeah.
But then you reach this plateau. The innovation seems like it's stopped. It may be still very growing, but it's very slow. And everyone that wanted to adapt has adapted.
Yeah.
That's the phase where is the key takeaway is like either know how to pivot to get back into the exponential growth phase or sell.
Yeah.
And I think that's the failures for most businesses. If you look at any case studies, like let's say LG, for example, since we're talking about phones, they came to that plateau phase and they didn't really know how to change. Not many people know this, but LG was actually the very first company to come out with a touchscreen phone.
Oh shit, didn't know that.
Yeah, they even partnered with Prada and even co-branded with a luxury commodity and had a branded phone, but they didn't know how to market it. They didn't know how to pivot when they reached that plateau phase. That's what led to their demise. Same thing with BlackBerry. They didn't know how to adapt. Let's say if they were going towards the Android phase, that trend, they didn't know how to integrate it fast enough. I mean, yes, they pivoted toward another direction. What they were good at, security.
Security,
and enterprise systems. But when we were talking about the phone, it was dumb.
Yeah, I don't think I know anybody with a BlackBerry. I know my mom had one.
Yeah.
One day. That's about it. I still remember these like the horrible noises if you think about it. I would go nuts basically. But I didn't know anybody. Do you still know anybody with a BlackBerry phone?
To this day, probably not, because I think even BlackBerry announced that they ended their BBM service, so it's like their competitive advantage is gone now. It's like, who's gonna use it?
I was researching Google Glasses yesterday. Actually, Google Glasses, when they fully stopped a month ago.
Okay.
They really stopped the production, everything.
For like the glass thing.
Yeah, the glasses. It's just a help center now on Google. It's like, sorry, we're out. We won't be supporting you from the 15th of September, and we stop production 15th of March. Like, okay, and that's gone. Because I was trying to figure out how this thing works. Because I was reading this post where a guy, a student from Stanford, he connected ChatGPT with glasses. Okay. So he was cheating with his glasses, connecting ChatGPT basically. So he would have these glasses where you would ask a question and then ChatGPT would give you these answers.
Sure.
Now they're coming back. Now it starts to make sense, I would say.
I thought it was a privacy issue because they had camera built in and like people would go into like the lockers or bathrooms or what have you.
Yeah, that would be a scary thing.
Privacy concern.
That's another topic. But okay, so for what I understood is that every business is going to have that organic. Then
exactly, and they know when to adapt. So going back to, let's say quickly here, the Apple example. Apple is slow to adapt because they let other companies try out what works in the market.
Yeah.
Android phones have had NFC for over a decade now. But Apple Pay probably didn't come into existence maybe, was it 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago, when they really tried to like bring it
to the market.
But they did it so well that anything that they implement is better than their competition.
True.
Because they let other people trial out the new products under their expenses, and then they just adapt and learn how to pivot, improve, and innovate that to the next level.
I think they're also sitting on so much data. They have the distribution channels, App Store, the phones, the hardware. So they have the hardware and the software where everything is running on. So they have so much data on like what works, what doesn't work.
And the capital.
that also helps.
Any company today, like yes, you have companies out there with extremely high valuations. But Apple is probably one of the few companies, or if not the only company, sitting on liquid capital. It's not like Steve Jobs. He's very conservative.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you implement something, it takes the safe route and it comes to fruition, especially with now with their ecosystem. It's difficult to compete.
True. I think they launched yesterday something with Goldman Sachs. You would get loans or yields or something like that coming up for like 4% or something like that.
Yeah, they're partnered for their Apple Card with Goldman Sachs to offer that service. And Goldman Sachs, I think it's called Marcus or something like that, where they offer savings accounts, at least in the US.
Cool.
And so now with the treasury rates being at like 4 or 5%.
That was it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming up.
Yeah.
It's a safe route, but it makes sense basically.
But be careful on that. There's a couple caveats we can talk about later.
Because indeed,
that's still
I think it's still. No! So, take two.
Take two, right.
I feel like this is also like the perfect, like, we're just starting this podcast, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You're not a lighting professional, I'm not a video professional. We're not professionals.
No.
But I feel like for me, when I started the whole podcasting, I bought this, not even this one, another one, because this one is the second one I bought because I traveled to Belgium for a month out of nowhere and I had a podcast. I'm like, fuck, I forgot my podcast here.
Oh, sure.
So this is the second one I bought. But to me, I think we talked about the philosophy of starting a podcast. Sometimes you just have to start, because when I started in this podcasting thing, I realized that there's so much gear that you can buy. Like there's like, if you start digging into what gear you need for a podcast, I mean, you got the fancy mic and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
which is surprisingly my second one as well.
Which is the second one as well. There you go. But like you can buy so much expensive gear, and like you have the lighting and you have all the setup, and then there's the hardware and there's the software, so you can get really lost in this transition of, okay, fuck it, I'm not gonna do it anymore because it's just too much.
I think that point alone, right, what you said right there, is the biggest caveat as to why people don't start it. They get so bogged down by like having the perfect camera, the lighting, the gear. It's like when today, you just need your iPhone, really, to start out.
True.
And I was actually just talking to someone else just yesterday about this, and someone came to me for advice. I was like, first of all, disclaimer, I'm not the perfect person to give you advice on something that you're personally like aspiring to be, because like you know yourself better than anyone, right?
True.
But at the same time, when it comes to starting, like finding out what are the reasons why you don't start today. That would come down to, it's like, oh, I need this, I need that. I can't like compare myself to this person or that person. Like they're already so much better than I am. It's gonna take me years, and that's why I'm not starting, because it's not perfect. Fuck off. It's like more than the quality, it comes down to the content. Your content has to be strong based on what you have to say, because you may have the same exact thing to say to your audience than, let's say, XYZ person. But your audience relates to you more so than to them, and that's why they follow you.
Yeah, and also I think because we also talk about this 0 to 1, where you don't have an audience and you want to build that first 100 people, I would say. It's more important to have 100 people loving you than 1,000 people liking you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you really need to aim for when you're starting out. Is, for me, my only goal when I started the podcast with interviewing marketing leaders was not for the audience to say they love it.
Yeah.
It was for the people that we interviewed to say that we love it.
Yeah.
I wanted them to love it first, because if they don't love it, the audience will not love it.
Exactly.
And so our competitive advantage when we did the podcast, it was not about the interview. It was really about the research before the interview. I remember one of the gold nuggets when we started out the podcast is before any podcast, we would do a huge research on them. I think we spent like a week's work just researching the person, figuring everything out, and trying to connect the dots with where we want to go.
Sure.
And we have this document, I'll even review one today. It's a document, mostly it's like 3 pages, full of background checks, things that we've noticed, things that we want to ask. And we send this document with all the questions we're going to ask during the podcast.
So they're preempted already. So
they already know what is coming. It doesn't mean that we're asking all the questions. It does mean that we see that there's different personalities. One basically just answers everything. Like the guy goes in, fills in all the questions, reviews everything. I'm more of the guy that just reads through it. I have a vague idea what I'm going to tell, and I'll just start telling it. But some people read in the preparation phase. But we noticed that we sent this document, I think, a week to 2 weeks in advance, where they can just have a look at the document, where the questions are coming in, and you can see them really preparing. And because they're prepared, they're comfortable. And I remember that moment when we shared the document, and afterwards, after the podcast, you cancel the podcast, you still have this chat, casual chat afterwards. And I remember this moment where the guy said, look, man, I really loved the podcast. Was great, like it was lovely. But what I really loved, that's exact words, I really loved your market research. The research about me really made a big difference. I even took that document, I sent it to the entire company in Slack, like CEO, whatever, and saying, guys, this is what we need to do. This is exactly what I expect you to do for a podcast. And that's, I think, where you need to strive for. So going back to the story is like, you really just need 100 people loving you. This is not having an expensive mic.
Right.
That is not having expensive mic.
Well, if anything, I feel like you built that trust with that company indirectly.
Yeah.
So rather than you approaching them with like, let's say a cold call and it's like, oh, I can present the services, blah, blah, blah. You're actually coming in, you're giving them something of value, but then you're giving them a chance to learn about themselves.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. And at the, build that trust in you at the same time, and they'll probably resort to you if they need it.
Exactly, because you are actually showing what the quality is of your services throughout the research. Because if their mind goes like this, if the research is that amazing about just a podcast, for them it's just a podcast, what would it be working with them? Like how throughout the research, the process would be, if they're nailing this, they're probably nailing something else. And this is how humans work.
Exactly.
It's like, if this coffee, the Starbucks, I'm not saying this is the best coffee in the world, if this coffee is great, probably the pie that they're serving is also great, or vice versa. This is how humans
By associations.
By association. So I think that's when you're starting out, I think you just go and try to find 100 people that love you, love the content you do, whatever crap it is. It doesn't even have to be filmed. My first podcast was literally just my MacBook, and I think I had like a mic that was attached from my MacBook to here. It's like, I think it was like $20. $20 MacBook, no 4K camera, whatever it is. Just filming, just making sure that the people loved what we were offering. It wasn't about the quality of the mic, it wasn't about the quality of the video, it was just about you understanding and going through that process and having those 100 people love you, and then from there you can build the rest. Then you upgrade the mic. If somebody complains about your mic, that's a good thing, because that means that people were listening through your shitty mic to the thing that you were trying to say.
And they're giving you feedback. It's like, I'm interested in what you're saying.
Exactly.
Please, can you refine it so it could make it easier for me to listen to?
True. If you have something to say where people are willing to go through a shitty mic and a shitty setup, you have something that is worth building on top. Exactly. If that doesn't happen, refine it.
It shouldn't be an excuse for not starting.
Yes.
Start however you can. I think we're very blessed in this day of age that anyone with a simple smartphone can start today.
Yes.
You shouldn't have an excuse to do anything. Like if you're adamant and you want to start a YouTube channel, which I would argue is probably, if you're trying to build a business, whether it just be a YouTube channel, today's the best day to do it.
True.
And you can do it with just what's in your hand already.
I think this setup is a perfect example. We had a fancy camera, a fancy mic, all of that stuff with us. Until the moment it hits us that, oh, you can't film with a professional camera here.
But we still got around it, and we're filming on our phone right now.
And then suddenly the laptop shuts down, and the mic goes off, and it's just part of life. But I feel like that's the process you need to go through. And it's also us, like we just push through. It's like, okay, we can do this, let's try that. Oh, then this is possible with the phones. Okay, let's just film with the phones. And I think you should be able to go through these little process iterations of, okay, let's try and iterate. This won't work. Okay, let's try something else.
Exactly.
So I think that's where we're at product iteration.
Exactly. So we're getting to your story now. And then so like that in between, it's like we talked about the failures, but you had something that you mentioned before, something that was getting there but not quite there yet.
Yeah, I think the story there was, so the company was called Alchemist Box.
Okay.
And technically what I was seeing, this is when I finished graduation, I didn't want to write my thesis, so like, what product have I built?
Sure.
I saw this outcome of HelloFresh, I think in America it's called Apron. You have all these food delivery boxes. You're like, that's fine, they teach you how to cook, but who's teaching you how to make cocktails? Because I remember this evening, I was like, I want to build this cocktails, and you would go to this very fancy cocktail websites and you're like, okay, you need X, Y, Z in order to build the perfect cocktail. And then suddenly you realize you need like 5 centiliters of like some kind of expensive liquor from Italy, and then you need some berries from there and X, Y from there. You just need 5 centiliters, but you need to buy the full bottle.
Sure.
So I'm like, that's an issue. Let me see how I can solve the issue of creating cocktails at home.
Okay.
So that was for me okay, let's try to build something for this. And I remember the first thing I bought, or the first thing I actually marketed, was a shoebox with a little bit of hay inside. I went to the pharmacy. I bought a few, I don't know, cough syrups. I emptied those. And then I just put the liquid inside. Yeah. And I paid a student, I think it was $40, to make it like a flyer that would go inside the box on how to create the cocktail. It wasn't even with the pictures and all that stuff, because I didn't have money for that.
Sure.
It was literally just like, just taking a picture from the internet, try it a little bit, and just, here is how to build this cocktail. There's no video, there's no picture. This is just a blurry image. I remember having this, and I'm like, okay, this is actually like, let me see if people are interested. And I remember standing on this fair. So it was like a startup fair where people could go pitch their ideas, and people would walk around and you could sell stuff. So, I subscribed myself. I'm like, let's bring it out. Like, it was just a shitty black box with like some hay and some pictures. And I remember there was a picture on it. So I got, this is, by the way, not legit, but I just took a picture from, stock images or something like that. I downloaded it for $1, and not even with the right license, sorry. But I downloaded this really cool picture of like 3 men having cocktails. I printed out on an A4 really cheap, and I pasted on the shoebox, inside the shoebox. And I'm like pitching this idea. Like, this was a fair for like 5 days. So I'm pitching every single day, and nobody freaking buys it. Like, I'm pitching it, and they're like, I think on the 4th day, there's this couple that passes by, and the couple basically says, this looks like, I don't know, I think it was like Fred or Jack or something like that, like very short name. And I'm like, me? I was like, no, the guy on the box looks like Fred or Jack. And it's like, who the hell is this guy? It's like, yeah, it's a friend of ours. Like, this would actually be a very cool gift for Fred or Jack. I'm like, but because I was always pitching it, like, create a perfect 4 cocktails at home for you. Nobody cared about that. Like, they just cared about Fred and Jack that they would gift it towards. So like, oh, this is actually a really cool gift.
So
that was my aha moment after pitching for 4 freaking days, selling dog shit, nothing at all. Suddenly it clicks. It's like, people don't want it from their homes. Like, they want to really create cocktails. They'll make something simple. But they want to have a perfect gift experience with something different to work for their friends. And then suddenly it changed up the whole model, and we sold out all the boxes at that particular spot just because of changing the messaging. Saying, hey, don't you have a birthday coming up? And like, what kind of cocktails does a person like drink? And have the conversation, and then they would buy the box for their home, for giving it away for their friends. So that was the first product iteration where like we got this feedback from a very shitty product.
But it goes to show you, like, whether the product is shitty, the messaging is that much more important.
Yes.
And that's what sold the product.
That's what sold the product. Then we took that feedback and we just enhanced it. We bought the fancy boxes. We made the boxes custom made. We had some sleeves around it, because sleeves always look more like it's a gift because you unwrap it. We had a code on it which says, okay, one of the 100 boxes that we created to make that scarcity effect. Then we were able to have some names that you could write on it. You could write like 4 XYZ, because we knew people wouldn't buy it for themselves. People would actually buy it as a gift, which is also how your marketing changes, because suddenly you realize you're not going to be selling this fully around. You're going to be selling this Christmas periods, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of those things. So your marketing strategy suddenly also completely changes because of the product that you're trying to sell. And I remember going to the second fair. So now we have these boxes, and they're actually selling quite well. But when we're selling them, we still notice we're not positive roles. Like, it's something is not clicking here. And we realized this quite late, actually. It was my fault. But we only realized that when we went to the second fair. It was like somewhere in November, called Gentleman's Fair. And we would go out and pitch the same thing. And we would pitch it the exact same thing we learned back in the first fair. It's like, this is the perfect gift for XYZ for your friend. And something was like, we were selling, but not like extreme selling. Like, okay, something's wrong. Like, there's some feedback we're missing. And we realized when we were pitching this, that the questions that we came back were very different this time. It was not about, it's not really for me, it's for friends, because we covered that. The second coverage we had to take is, people are asking the questions, okay, but what kind of alcohol is inside? Because we were pitching it, this is a perfect cocktail called, I think it was Red Ginger, it's called. Alcohol is inside. It's like, it's gin. It's like, oh, my friend loves gin. That's the reasoning people would make. Like, people love, like, oh yeah, my friend loves gin, so he's probably gonna love this. Even though the cocktail doesn't taste like gin at all, like absolutely nothing. But people make associations to, okay, my friend loves gin, so I'm gonna buy a gin cocktail.
Yes.
We had a whiskey one, we had a vermouth, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think. We had these three different, and then the gin cocktail, 80% would sell the gin cocktail because people associate gin, the person likes gin, I'm gonna buy the gin cocktail. And then even further, they would ask, what type of gin is it? What's the brand that is inside? Because we started out with adding a brand from locals, because we wanted to promote local first. I thought it was a nice ideology, philosophy, that was nice. But then we realized that people actually didn't buy the cocktail. People actually bought the brand of the gin to us make the association of, is this gonna be good or bad? So we noticed that if you would stand on a fair where the other gin brand would also be available, so for example, there was this fancy gin, just XYZ gin, they would have a stand before that and they would taste it there. And then they would come to our stand and say, hey, remember that gin you tasted there? It's the exact same gin that is in our cocktail boxes, just in a cocktail way. And they were like, oh, we like that, so we're probably also gonna like this. And our friend likes gin, and that gin is something we liked.
It almost comes down to like positive elimination.
Exactly. You're like tackling all the eliminations of the hassles they would have, like, would I buy it or not? You're tackling all those away by just saying, you remember that you love that gin? Well, that gin is in this cocktail box. And by the way, it's gin one and your friend loves gin. There you go. That is how we changed the product messaging again. We didn't want to buy this cocktail box and this is red ginger. We would go, does your friend like gin? Buy the gin box.
And then it's like, do they like this kind of gin?
Exactly. So you go like from iteration to iteration to iteration until you really nail that product messaging. I think that's in any client we also see is like people, they forget about the messaging part.
So that's kind of like what I said before. It's like you're finding your niche and then a sub niche. And so like if they like this product, of that product, what kind of brand of that product? And then even if you go down to the brand, maybe it's a particular flavor of that brand of that product.
You can go very niche, but I feel like if you go too niche, you kind of lose people as well.
You limit your market pool.
That's also there, and you don't want to limit everybody, but you do want to limit a few people. Especially in the beginning. And then from there we would actually, because in the beginning we would run ads for anybody that loves cocktails, we would run ads basically. Even the first thing that we done, because our boxes in the beginning were too expensive. I remember our boxes were too expensive in the beginning. So like, how do we lower this cost down to get into retail and all that stuff? And I remember reaching out to these big brands like Fever Tree, Schweppes as well. No answer. We were like, okay, how do we do this? So this was back 10 years ago when Instagram was like rising and booming. And I remember like when I started the Instagram channel, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start like building an audience. And once I have an audience, I'll be having this as a leverage towards these brands. So I'm starting this Instagram channel with like 100 people, and every day I would like go to people that have the hashtag cocktail, and then I would go to the picture, like the picture, say the beautiful cocktail, love what you guys are doing. And then they would get this comment, go back to my page, they start following me, and we would go round and round. So I remember like every single night, 3 hours in a row before I go to sleep. Until the last hashtag I couldn't do anymore. I would just like the hell out of these things every single day. And we would grow like 100 people, 200 people. So we would really see that growth. I think in a few days it went from 0 to I think like 4,000 or 5,000 followers just by doing that. And then I outsourced that process. I actually outsourced it to another country, and a person was just full-time liking, hashtagging, and just following people with hashtag cocktails. And then Instagram bots came along, and we did the whole process. And I think we went from, in a few days we went from 0, or like a few weeks went from 0 to 10,000 followers. That's the moment we got sponsorship deals. That's the moment we reached out to these big brands. We got partnerships with online companies as well that would say, here, Schweppes is free. We got free pallets of Schweppes delivered to my mother's store. We got these 2 huge pallets coming in.
But it goes to show you that you don't actually need a large following. You said like 10,000 followers. Very easily done in a short period of time, whether through bots or what have you, and now you're getting sponsorships.
Now you're getting sponsorships. Now it's happening. And it's crazy to see, but this is what people really look at. It's like, oh, do this guy have a following? Like, is there's like, do they have an extra distribution channel for us? Because the reason why we went for Schweppes and not Fever Tree came very early in the game.
Yeah.
With the tonics and the fancy tonics, Schweppes came very late.
Yeah.
So they had to catch up the market. So we entered with Schweppes first because we knew these people need to catch up, and they're looking for any way in order to catch up. So Schweppes was our go-to partner.
They know how to pivot with you.
Yes, they know how to pivot with us basically. We're like, oh, you want to get into the cocktail market, which you missed, by the way. We're gonna get you in there.
Yeah.
Done. And then it's two huge pallets. My mother waking up. I think these trucks always come like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So my mother's like half awake. I'm like, rise and shine. And then you have this dude, strong dude, lifting out 2 pallets. And it's like, my mother's like, where do we keep this? Like, I think your garage. So first story, I take the basement with all my IKEA stuff. Second one is the garage, basically. We have a lot of Schweppes. that is for sure. That's how always what I try to say is like when you're starting a business, like your product needs to be able to evolve very quickly, and having the short cycles of how do I make sure that I implement feedback quite quickly. And sometimes it's just the way you message it that changes the whole thing. Because for us, the second iteration had nothing to do with the box. Because it was a beautiful box. It was just beautifully designed. If I'm really proud of that. But it was just about the way you sell it, the way you message it changed everything. Oh, you want to have a gin box? Fine. In the beginning, I was really sad about it. I was like, man, we spent so much time thinking about, what's the name and all that stuff. The branding and the presentation, and then suddenly we just call it a freaking gin box. I was like, okay, you know what? If you want to call it like that. But I think that also goes into like when Red Bull launched. They didn't launch it. The marketing is not the same thing as it is now. It's not about like now they like add like wings to it and all that stuff. And now it's not even the wings anymore. It's just like they sponsor professional teams. In the beginning, their messaging was completely different. It was like, you want to get energy? That's it. It was very simplistic. You want to get energy. And then it went into the wings, and then it went into the professional skateboards or whatever sport they're sponsoring right now. They're not talking about, everybody knows what an energy drink is now. Back in the days, nobody knew. Same thing for us, nobody knew what a cocktail box was. So just saying you want a cocktail box, everybody's like, what? What is that? What is that? You want a gin box that creates cocktails? Oh yeah, that makes more sense. And now everybody starts saying, okay, cocktail boxes, okay, now I get it, and you want to have different ones, and now the market caught up to, okay, I want to have some fanciness, and I know what a fancy cocktail is.
Well, you evolve with time, and then you adapt to like your audience. So I think that's the biggest takeaway here, and this applies to almost any business model. Is that when you take something, let's say, for example, I ended up launching a in-house insurance program for a dental clinic.
Okay. How does that work?
So normally in the States, insurance is very expensive. Medical insurance, as you know, it's like to pay a godly amount to be covered, and still you end up paying out of pocket when you get to the doctor. Dental practices are a very unique position where you do end up paying some amount, but more often than not, because if it's cosmetic related, it's not covered by insurance. And so it's like we're in this limbo here. It's like, what can we offer our customers, our patients, something that gives them that value? So you develop a value proposition. It's like, okay, it's an in-house membership program or insurance program. You give them complimentary services, but then it also entails them, they're hooked now. You get them hooked, and then you can offer them a tail of services along with it, whether you're charging them, whether it be at a slight discounted price, but they won't go anywhere else. So just like with the gin boxes, you got them hooked.
True.
When they're accustomed to it, just like when you have that association to a certain branding, and especially when you associate yourself, it's like, I have that brand. I have Schweppes, I have that XYZ gin. It's like, why would you go anywhere else?
Yes, exactly. Also the fact that they associate that is like, it's so funny. Like, it makes sense. Sometimes when you're developing stuff and you're too deep in it, sometimes you just need a smack in your face. It's also some things where consulting comes in, because you're so deep in your business that you just need somebody to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Probably somebody could have just walked in, a marketer could have walked in, because I was in marketing as well. It's like, I should know this.
Yeah.
But you were so deep into it, any marketer would come in, it's like, why don't you just take a big brand? Because everybody loves the big brands.
Would you say that you were too emotionally attached to your business? And that prevented you from thinking really outside the box as a marketer yourself, but it kind of limits your track to like think from an outside perspective.
For me, when you say emotionally attached, that means that you don't want to change something because you had a sunk cost in it.
Whether it be time, energy, cost.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it makes it more difficult to pivot because you really want this to work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was less that because I wanted to work, and if something better works, I'm always in favor of something that is better to work.
So you're okay with change?
I'm okay with change at all time, basically. If you see your metrics go up, who cares? Like for me as well, when I run ads, everybody, well, at least for us, we know that the ugly ads always work with the nice ads. Yeah. Everybody wants the nice ads, but the ugly ads always convert better.
They stand out.
They stand out. They're native, they're people, like, they have this bias now. It's an ad, okay, I'm gonna skip this. But if it's an ad that doesn't look like an ad, it always performs better. I'm the person that says, if it works, why kill it, basically? Like, let's just go with that. Like, who cares? Like, yes, of course, it's this whole branding stuff, I get it, you know, but still, like, you still, like, want to get the best buck out of your money, basically. So if something works better, I'm fine with that. I think for me, it was just like, when you're like in that day-to-day hustle, you're so focused on solving all these little fires that sometimes you just need a week off and just think about, okay, what is really not working? And sometimes you just need, like I said, a smack in the face.
You need a break. It's almost like musicians come to mind when saying this. It's like they spend so much time in the studio, they know what's good, what's bad, but they get so stuck in like that same grind of like listening to the same thing that you need to give your ears a break. Or take a step away for a bit and then come back fresh.
Yeah, true.
So it's the same thing with your business.
Yeah, true.
You're stuck with putting out fires, and then you just fail to really acknowledge where you should be focusing. And that brings to the next point about like outsourcing. You shouldn't be afraid to outsource certain tasks.
I learned from me, at least from me, when I outsource things, I want to have done it myself to a certain level, so I know what I'm outsourcing. I would say. Like, of course, you cannot know everything, but like, I'm always afraid of outsourcing tasks that I haven't done myself, or at least one of my team members has done itself, because you first want to master the process in-house, or at least get that in-house expertise.
You should, whether you're an expert at it or not, you should have an idea of what it is that is it.
And how long it should take.
Yes.
You should at least know that. Otherwise, like with your manufacturing, you might as well get effed. Because you have no idea. Is that high margins, low margins? Like, does that make sense? Like, you need to have at least that basic understanding, or bring in somebody that comes from your side and says, okay, what would you think? How long would that take, basically? How long would it get a certificate? How long would it make to create this video, basically? Like, does that take you a long time? How long would it take? Because otherwise, VA can basically say, okay, this video cuts, it's gonna take 6 hours. You're like, okay, I guess 6 hours, I mean, there's a lot of video thing. You have no idea. Somebody walks in and is like, I can do this half an hour. It doesn't mean that the VA that you're outsourcing can do it in half an hour, but at least you have the gap. You have it should take 6 hours, it can take half an hour. I need something in the middle. I'm maybe not getting the expert that like has done this for 20 years to do it in half an hour, because that's where the expertise comes in. But I'm not going to get 6 hours. I know what the gap is. I need to know where the benchmark is to outsource of it.
Exactly. That when you fine tune the business then too, like that's where sunken costs go then.
True story. What about you? What's your outsourcing? Do you outsource a lot? Is that
the very first business that I launched? I would say no. I did everything myself. I kind of alluded to this with the medical management company that I launched. I had one other partner, but at the same time, like, we were both equally at it, especially with coming up with marketing campaigns, implementation, sourcing. Like, we did everything on our own. And granted, it's like, okay, you become efficient at it over time, but at the same time, like, I know if I had put more time and energy into a certain part of the business, I could have really grown it to the next level. Because the tedious tasks, I was doing that on my own as well. Let's say for a marketing, my business aside, let's say let's take a marketing business, an agency, and they're a lead generation company.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just say an owner of a lead gen company doesn't go scavenging the internet for leads. He'll spend his time looking at how he can attack gain new clients, how to expand the business, so on and so forth. Outsource the lead gen part. To go through the internet, go through iterations, go through websites, scavenge data, things like that. Because that's the tedious part of the business. It's a repetitive process. You should know how it's done. You should be able to teach someone how to do it, but then have them do that.
Yeah. Okay. But you've done it before.
I've done everything.
Yeah.
For my business, I was doing all of it. For the medical management company, it started off running a medical practice, but then evolved into more so just the marketing component. They had a staff member as part of the clinic that basically had prior experience with a company that was taking care of all of that themselves. It's like, fine, great, you take care of that. But then I'll spend my time on the marketing component and really growing this.
Okay.
And so we essentially, like I said, I started the in-house insurance program. We took a company from 500 patients to 5,000 patients in 3 years because I really hyper-focused on just growing the business just through marketing.
And then what part did you outsource in the beginning? You've done everything yourself.
So I did everything myself, from whether it's from lead gen, like speaking to other people, other clinics, doing events. Like literally, I burnt myself because I'm like here spending half the day inside the clinic talking with patients, getting feedback. I spend the rest of the day going to other events or other venues to either like pitch a business or see how we can help them, or running. I even partner with a fashion agency.
Fashion agency, how does that work?
So I had this vision. It's like considering how the Kardashians become successful. We turned this practice into more so of like the Beverly Hills med spa feel. So we went from a mom and pop dental practice where we did like teeth cleaning and and X-rays to from root canals to doing the full-on lip fillers, Botox, what have you, alongside.
I would feel so weird selling that, but I get there's a market for that.
You have to know your market. That particular clinic was based in a very affluent neighborhood.
So you did the Botox yourself and all that stuff?
So essentially, I have the training to do it. That's the part I outsource because it's a repetitive process. I know how it's done. Obviously, I have a medical background, so
yeah.
But I'm not going to just sit 8 hours out of the day filling lips.
Would you be able to do it?
I could do it. I could do it. But again, if you get a esthetician, someone that's licensed, that will do just enough, maybe even a better job because that's their daily task. You get efficient at a time. Whereas my task is grow the business, outsource the person to do the in-house tasks within the clinic itself.
Coming on that point, I think the beauty I noticed is when I was managing a team, you get to a scary point, at least for me. The scary point is where you had a certain expertise, and you're teaching that expertise to a new team member, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, you are having this conversation where you say, okay, this is how we should do it, and then the team member basically says, no, I think it's better this way, and you call yourself like, no, wait, I'm the expert here, I taught you. And then suddenly that solution is actually better than your solution. So you have that feeling of that person is actually out, not ranking, but out thinking me in my own expertise.
Sure.
And for me, that's the scariest and beauty, the most beautiful story as well.
The beautiful part of that is that that's why you chose that person.
True.
You're outsourcing that particular part of the business to that person because they're an expert in that field.
Exactly.
And these people, which is fine, they stay in their own lane, which is kind of what you want, but then they'll perfect that to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you want. But it's scary, I have to say. For me, that was scary.
The first time you hear it, it's like, shit, it's like, this person's better than me in that. What if? It's like, they're better than me in this too.
Yeah.
And this too. And then they're going to take my business away from me. It doesn't happen.
It does not happen. Because you realize that running a business is more than just that aspect.
Yeah.
You realize that you're just putting a machine together, but in order to keep the machine running, that essential thing is just part of a big machine.
Exactly.
Some people just enjoy just getting better in that particular field.
Sad as it sounds, we're all cogs in the wheel. Elon Musk surrounds himself with experts, amazing engineers. I think the chief engineer of Tesla, who started the Model S, actually ended up starting Lucid. right? But like he surrounded himself with brilliant people that built a brand around this. He knows how to market that brand. That's what he's good at. And like putting that vision out, right?
Because Tesla was not even his name.
It's not his company.
He bought the name.
It was started by two guys, Martin Abraham and blanking on the other guy's name. But these two guys have been known to successfully start businesses, get it up to a point where it's sustainable, and then sell their shares out and to go and start the next one.
They're like 0 to 1 experts, basically.
Yep. Elon came in 2004, so the brand started in 2003. Started in 2004, he came in, it's like, I believe in this. I'm going to put my own money towards it. So before even getting investors on board, he invested his own money into it. And he kept putting money into it because he knew the potential of where this can go.
Yeah, I saw that interview and I was like, oh, okay. I actually thought Tesla was started by him, but actually it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what you said in the beginning, and for me as well, when I would look into business. Now, I wouldn't want to walk into business, start everything from zero. I think I would look at a potential business and then see how I can use my expertise and knowledge to scale that further to get that payback time. In order to go through from 0 to 1 again, you can take it from 1 to 10.
You have to have belief in what that business is. It's the same philosophy I use when I come to invest. Whether it's through stocks or alternatives, I believe in that one company or brand or product or token or what have you. Right? Came across an article this morning. Someone who believed in Amazon when their IPO came out in, what was it? It's like May of '97. $10,000 invested in that company then, and with $0 put in after that, would be worth well over $16 million today because they believed in it.
Yeah.
Just like with any investment, you believe in that product, that's probably a better bet for you. Because if it fails, that's on you and you're fine.
The thing is also when you're running a company, I feel that's the things you have to do as well. You need to make the short-term, almost sure bets. And then at the same time, you need to be working on the long-term unsure bets.
Right.
I feel that's at least what I'm trying to do, is that I'm building out, of course, the consulting and making sure that runs well, getting new clients, that's short-term bets. But you also need to take a few long-term bets. That one, if the consulting goes a little bit sideways or a bit less, or we have lesser months, that you have something to cover, basically.
We live in a very interesting time where in the past, someone could be an expert as like a mechanic, a dentist, a doctor, or even like a barista. They have one particular skill and they can stick to that for the rest of their life and make their living. After COVID, especially, I feel like things have changed.
Which way?
Your job is not guaranteed. Anything can happen at any given moment. Your skill that you have, especially with the introduction of AI now, especially for blue-collar workers, I feel, will probably be the first to get affected. Your trade skill that you have will no longer be a necessity in the coming years. So you really need, like you said, focus in the short term. It's fine, you're doing it right now, but you need to have a long-term bet as well, and diversify your streams of income.
True. I think for us now, the two bets we're taking is AI. Even now with the team, I'm telling them, I want everything that you do, I want you to do it through AI. I want you to take the bet that this is going to be the future, and I don't want you to be replaced, because I don't believe that we're going to be replaced. That's never happening. But what is going to happen is that you will be required to do other things, like writing prompts, making sure that you know everything on a strategic level to give the right prompts. So you need to be working with the machines, because the machines always win. At the long run, machines always win. But you still need people to run the machines, or to think about what's the next step for the machine.
At least right now, until the machine becomes part of us.
Yes. when the project of Elon Musk goes through, and we all have these neural links inside our brain. That's for sure. But that's going to take a while before it gets that true. But I feel like you need to take a few bets at anything. And that is not just for a company, but also for yourself. For me, when I started my career, I was reading this blog post from Brian Balfour, which was a VP of HubSpot back in the days. And I was running Reforge. And I read this blog post, and it totally changed the way I was looking at stuff. So for me, when I looked at my career, in this article it said, you know what, look at channels, and look at one channel or two channels that are always going to be sticking around. Back then it was Facebook. Facebook and Instagram ads. That's also where I started my career.
Yeah.
So I said, this is a channel that's always going to be sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, look at a channel that is evolving, that is just starting out, and that in 2-3 years, when you've done your research and you've spent 2-3 years in there, all the experts that are 10 years of Facebook ads experts are going to look at a new channel and say, fuck, we're missing out, we need to find an expert here.
Yeah.
So for me, that was LinkedIn back in the day. I saw LinkedIn maybe 5-6 years ago, and I said, that's the channel where everybody, if you're into B2B, are going to be looking at. Everybody was like, no, it's a CV platform.
Yeah.
No, they're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing Facebook and Instagram ads, that was the money making.
Yeah.
I was looking at LinkedIn where I was now making absolutely no money because nobody cared about the channel at the time. But then when everything changed, COVID came in, it was like, okay, fuck, all these events are going down. We need to shift our budgets to B2B marketing. What's there? Oh, LinkedIn is there. Who's the expert in that? That's when they're like, oh, the guy wrote a book about LinkedIn. The guy has a masterclass on LinkedIn. That's probably the expert we need to be talking about. And you, with just 2-3 years of experience, suddenly outbeats everybody that has spent 20 years in marketing. Because you have 2-3 years experience in that.
You have a niche product or a service that no one else is. It gives you that competitive advantage.
Because I took a short-term bet on Facebook, and I took a long-term bet on LinkedIn. And that's just how you balance it. You take the short term to finance the long term things, and that's where you talked about the product cycles innovation, where when it plateaus, and now for me Facebook ads plateaus, you need to have that next step. Now I feel it's TikTok. All of those new channels are coming up, YouTube probably as well coming up. So this is where you try to balance I would say the channels are already there, that you can just fuel your marketing with and your budgets with, and then take that long-term bet, and then when it plateaus, you take the next step.
Right. I feel like that's crypto right now too.
Oh yeah, true.
The short term bet.
The
Not the long term.
Not the long term, the short one. That's for another topic, I would say. But let's keep that
for the finance one.
And then I think I actually enjoyed this topic.
It was absolutely
it was actually, I actually enjoyed the setup as well, to be honest. It's, I don't know why.
Missing the trolley there.
Maybe just to finish up and not bring this trolley, by the way. So this is
what we do to carry all the equipment.
I feel like next time you should be in this, and I'll be strolling around. This is how we do the intro, basically.
It's my grocery carrier too.
So, I don't want to say this, but I'm more than 50, so I don't think I'm going to do this. Maybe you're not, but I am definitely.
I'm definitely as well.
So that's not going to work out. Maybe next time.
We'll get another one.
We'll get another one.